All right. So you guys went from like 0 to 100 miles an hour very, very rapidly. I want to talk about how, before we get into the how, I want to get into like the mentality of that.
Yeah.
Almost everybody I know in real estate, myself included, I don't know about you, Alex, we can find out. I bought a house, worked on it for a while, sold it a year later, made some money. Then I bought a duplex, and we scale up very slowly over the course of many, many years. You guys are just like, woo, like right all in. Like, why did you do that? What was your mentality like? And I'll start with Lexi on that one.
Okay.
What was your mentality like to do
So
that?
it's interesting that you ask about mentality because mine has shifted so much from year one to where we are now. When we first got started, my mentality was, I will do whatever it takes. If I am the one in there swinging the hammer, so be it. If I am the one finding the tenant, so be it. I'll do whatever it takes to make this thing work. And that was probably the first year and a half. And then I realized, oh, there's people out there who can do this better than I can. Contractors, project managers, property managers that can do this so much better than I can and so much faster than I can. So that is where my mentality shift happened, probably in year two. I started thinking, okay, let's get the right people in the right seats and get me out of doing these jobs that really other people are better at.
But what's the mentality
answer your
shift between
question?
somebody who is like, I'm cutting hair to like, now I'm going to go, what was the first deal? I mean, how did you go from, if you do 50 deals in year one,
Yeah,
even
more
if you
than
do 10 deals in year one, that's far exceeds what most people will do. So how does your mentality go from like, I mean, I don't mean to sort of insinuate, but
Oh, no.
you're like, I'm
Yeah,
cutting hair.
Absolutely.
So like, we're going to
It's
go,
crazy.
we're going to go buy
Well-
some houses, and I'm sure you had to be borrowing money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of education runway here.
Yeah. I mean, or you go ahead. Go.
I was just going to say, I personally wasn't discontent cutting hair, but I knew that I had a lot more to offer. So I thought, worst case scenario, if this doesn't work, then I go back to cutting hair.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point, because that was one of my thoughts. We had, and I say this, like we had nothing to lose. We were living at her parents' house when we were doing this, when we started, and I had taken a job in St. Louis as a pastor as well, and you were kind of 100% focused on real estate.
Yeah, I was full-time real estate at that point.
But I wasn't making very much money, and it was one of those things where we had nothing to lose. And a huge like thing that there was two thoughts, which just sounds so weird, and they're corny sayings, that I had in my head were like, one, bet on yourself. That's something that I've always lived by. Like, hey, we're going to bet on ourselves. We're going to go all in and know that we can do this. And the other one is, it was, somebody's going to do it. Why can't it be us? Like somebody out there is doing this. Like, why can't we be that fairy tale story of, we can? And so,
Dude, just that mentality of saying, like, for example, in your market, was anybody flipping 100 houses a year? The answer is probably.
Yeah,
right?
there was.
In like, if you look at, and this could be applied to anybody's situation, like, okay, if you want to start a dog walking business, does anybody in the U.S. have a dog walking business and making $1 million a year? Probably. Okay, then why not you?
Exactly.
Right? Like, if it's being done, it can be done by you.
Well, and I will say that. So to give a shout out to my mentors, is I've got mentors there that are flipping 300 houses a year. And those were some of the first, and I just got lucky enough that I went to high school with them. They're a little bit older than me, but I'd reach out to them on Facebook when we first moved back, and I sat down with them, and they started telling me everything that they're doing, and was, one, blown away by what they were doing, but two, I kind of like weaseled my way into a relationship with them and saw that it could be done. I think that's part of it, is just like, it can't, like, people are doing it, like I have friends in St. Louis, our market, that are flipping 300 houses a year. We're at 100, so somebody's doing it. Why can't it be us? And so, we went all in, like, I'll tell you a little bit of our first deal, where it was actually, our first deal was a flip that did not go well at all. We bought that in the fall of 2019. So, and that was one of those things where again, though, this was just betting on ourselves, where we had Callie. Callie was literally, I signed the contract in the hospital with Callie right when she was born. The day she was born,
You asked me about that deal as I was sitting in the bed nursing Callie, and you were like, "Should we do this?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, so, we should. This seems great."
Yeah, and it was not great. It was terrible. It was not great. So I had
why do you need my opinion when my hormones are like this?
But
my best flip ever, by the way, I signed the day Wilder was born.
Really?
We were in the hospital. We signed papers for it. So there's something to it. That was my
There's
best.
something to it.
That was our first. Yeah. So maybe it was our best. But it was also
got us started.
Yeah. But so I bought this. No joke. I had walked it, but I had zero construction experience. Zero flipping experience. I didn't know, like, I didn't know how to run an ARV of a house or a rehab budget on a house. It was just one of those things where I'm like, I'm not going to be the person that talks about this and doesn't do it. I'm just going to do it. And so we bought this house, and in my mind, I had it's going to be a $30,000 to $40,000 rehab. And our very first contractor was Kenny. Yeah. He came and he walked it, and I was telling him everything I want. I was like, I want to take out walls here, and I want to do this, that. And he just stopped me and he was like, this is going to be a $150,000 rehab. Legitimately.
You already owned it?
Run the numbers as a $30,000 rehab, and just got told by our contractor that it was going to be $100,000.
Is this a what not to do show?
Well, so he gave us some advice, though. He was like, what I would do with this, because it was a house that was built in, I think it was built in 1894. So we started with a 120, 40-year-old house.
Knowing what we know now, we laugh at that.
Yeah. And he was like, once we start pulling out walls, there's going to be so many other things that are wrong with this. He was like, paint floors, kitchen, bathrooms. Like, just do that. He's like, we're not going to take out walls or anything like that. He's like, we can do that for pretty cheap. Actually, he couldn't do it for very cheap. We ended up doing it. So we got an air mattress, and with our dog, with Riley, who at the time was a year and a half old, and with Callie, who was literally a newborn, we moved into this house and we did everything. I've got pictures of us flipping a house. Like, we were ordering takeout every night, and I was still going to work, but then coming home and painting. Lexi was there all day long, painting, refinishing the cabinets. And it was a super cheap rehab. It wasn't like the bathrooms were nice. It was just like new toilets, new vanities. I think we glazed the tub. But
did you buy the Home Depot glazing kit that you just do yourself?
Did we pay some? I think we paid somebody on that one.
I think that. It did not work.
Yeah, no.
I think
I've
we
never
did pay
glazed.
somebody. Yeah, I think we paid somebody for that. But like, and there was like, I couldn't
get
to
have limitations, right?
Right.
It was one of those things.
Good
like,
to know your boundaries.
I had a friend that from Colorado that I flew out to do some stuff, because he was just he's like, if you just buy my ticket and give me a place to stay, I'll do it for free, which was cheaper than paying something. So I was just doing all these things to cut costs, save money. And we ended up breaking even on that very first deal.
Met a lot of good contractors.
We learned
that
a
we
ton.
still use to this day.
We learned a ton. If you added in our man hours, we probably lost $25,000. Because we committed hundreds and hundreds of hours to that deal.
Sure.
But that was our very first deal.
$1 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we made it was like, we did not make anything on that deal. But we learned so much in that deal, and it was so much fun. And that was in the fall of 2019, which I don't really count that as our first one, because that was, I guess it was, but it wasn't good, so I don't like to talk about it. But
there is something
about how counting works.
Exactly.
Right.
I like to count our second one as our best one.
There is something to say, though. There is a lot of people over the last few years who their first deal is like $100,000, because the market's just been so crazy, right? And I actually think that is such a handicap. Is that the wrong word?
I would say so, yeah.
Like, it's like
that's the perfect word.
It's a like, this is a problem, because now they don't know what struggle is.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know what pain is. And so it's like, it's always gonna be easy. And so I actually am a big fan of starting with pain and then
Well, and one thing I would say to anybody that like is watching that wants to get into real estate, or listening that wants to get into real estate, and what I tell anybody that calls me and is like, hey, teach me about real estate. My biggest thing is like, you don't try and hit a home run on your first one. Like if you do, that's great. But for us, we did not hit a home run. Like we struck out, but it was still, we learned the process. We learned how like to even like talk real estate, like there's a part of it where it's like just talking real estate that I didn't know. And we learned how to do that. We learned to meet contractors. We just learned so much that catapulted us into our next couple deals.